Thank you for joining us for another episode of Team Lift Presents Rodical Thinking.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Rodical Thinking. Once again, joined in the studio by Reid Griffin. Reid, how you doing, bud?
Good, my man. How are you?
Doing excellent, man. Doing excellent, man.
Fantastic.
We have good news. I was just going to let you know, we got 3 episodes in the can on air. Out of those 3 episodes over the last 28 days on YouTube, our first 2 episodes of Rodical Thinking have made up for 49% of all of our viewership.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is, once again,
it's all for the sexy voice.
Yeah, it could. I think it's all you, bro, because I think people hear my voice and know, I bet he's unattractive. That's what they hear. They just think it. They just like, I bet he looks like Professor Clump. I don't know why, but that's what I feel. I bet you he likes cakes. I bet you he likes cakes. You got to be joking.
That's my ringtone, too.
Are you serious?
I think so.
And I can't answer. I can't believe I had my phone on for a recording, bro.
I know. Look at you. Unprofessional. Talk about how awesome we are and professional and stuff, and then there it is.
Yeah, I know.
There it is.
Well, you know what? 2 years. This is actually June is our 2-year anniversary, and 2 years of doing podcasts, with Team Lift, and in 2 years I've never had my phone ring. And on the I think we're 2 days past the 2-year mark, my phone rings for the first time. I think it was a good run. It was a good run.
We're about like 24 months now.
Yeah, I started in June of 2016 with the first episode of Team Lift, and it was just a small operation. It was just me and Brandon, and we just talked geek culture. And now here we are, 2 years later. We have 3 shows and a YouTube channel, so it's been a good run.
Yeah, I was making my child is 15 months old or 18. That's the joke I was making.
Oh, no, we're not going to do that. Remember the other day we were talking about that. Why do people... It's like, oh, my God, how old is your kid? 36 months old? I'll say, bitch, that is a 3-year-old. Just say 3 at this point.
I can't even count that high, so you've already lost me.
Oh, God. See, we're done. A child left behind. There we go. All right.
Yes, sir.
So, cool. I want to talk to you about something. And we've had this discussion before. And it's not an easy topic. And that's one of the things that I think we never understand it. It's like I was watching, because of my daughters, I watched a lot of those Lifetime movies. I would just sit there with them. And they would get so aggravated with me watching these movies. Because anytime the woman was in an abusive relationship or the guy just seemed like a total creep, I'd be like, why didn't she just leave him? Why did she stay? And they'd go, Dad, shh. And I'd be like, it doesn't make sense. Why doesn't she just get up and leave? She has places she could go. And then I start thinking about, some women don't have places they can go. Sometimes they just stay and you never understand why they stay. And I was fascinated by it. And as we started the show and I started meeting different people, and me, anytime I meet someone, I'm basically interviewing them day one. We're already having those conversations as soon as I meet you about your life and how you got to where you are today. I have a guest that's going to come in and join us, and they're going to tell us their story because they were in a situation like that. Did you ever know anyone like this?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking to your guest.
Yeah. No, I'm asking you personally. Did you ever know anybody that was like that?
Yeah, I mean, it all kinds of falls into different types, whether it's mental or physical. They're both equally traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I've had family members and friends on both sides of that.
I had a guy friend that was in an abusive relationship, and he refused to ever hit her because he was raised not to hit a woman. But I really thought she was going to kill him.
See, that's what's crazy is a lot of times, society looks down on that, and you always get guys that are like, man, I don't understand why so-and-so lets her beat him up. If that was my woman, you always got a guy friend that's always going to be like that, but, mad respect to him, even though he did stick it out at least to not physically harm her. You know what I mean? I understand if somebody's trying to kill you, that's a different story, but I guess it's a kind of a fine line in a sense.
Yeah.
That's where that could be a very interesting moral question.
Yeah, man, no, I really was scared she was going to kill him. And he stayed with her for a while. But when he got out, I mean, he went through the post-traumatic stress of an abusive relationship. And it was just, like, I think it opened my eyes up because, like, I never really got, why did you stay? What led you to stay? And maybe one day we're going to get to have that conversation. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest. She's joining us. She has a very fascinating tale. I'm not going to prep you for what's going to be said. I'm just going to let her tell it. And once again, if you're listening to the show today, we're not using strong language, but you as a parent, if your child's in the room, you might want to use some parental guidance, suggest it, because we're not going to censor this conversation. It's going to be what it is. Whatever gets said, gets said. And unless you're ready to have some conversations about abuse and relationships with your child, you might want to take a bit to get them out of the room. All right. So without much further ado, Jane, thank you for coming on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you guys for having me.
Good deal. Thank you. So, I mean, I guess we get into this whole thing. My first question, as you can tell already, is the why. But I'm sure there's something more than just the why. Tell me about the first relationship. What happens?
So I've had the pleasure of being in 3 abusive relationships.
Jesus.
Which is fantastic. The first one wasn't actually a relationship. I was 15 years old. I had met a boy at a school dance. He went to another school and was crashing our Winter Wonderland dance. We hit it off, and being that I'm from a smaller town, he actually started to follow me after that. We went to 2 different schools. We didn't have cars or anything like that, and he would get rides to my school, get rides to where I was. And looking back on it now as an adult, I understand that he was pushing boundaries and seeing what he could get away with. When it came to touching me, when it came to kissing me, talking to me, anything like that, he was pushing boundaries that I hadn't set up yet. Because I hadn't been told, or no one had explained that those boundaries could exist. And without that, looking back on it now as an adult, I was defenseless. He did that for a few weeks, and one night I was cleaning up my house. My mom was working late, so I was hauling the trash out because I had procrastinated, and I was getting it like right as the buzzer hit. And he and his friend showed up in a car, and they waited outside of my house, and this was probably at about 11 o'clock at night. It was very cold outside, so I was running barefoot and in my pajamas to go throw the trash away before my mom got home. And he convinced me to get into the car. And from there, he just drove a few miles away from my house, about 3 or 4, and onto this old dirt road. And that's when he started assaulting me. And when I tried to open the door to unlock it to leave, his friend held me down and held a box knife to my throat. And he sexually assaulted me. And then he assaulted me sexually with the knife. And his friend in the back seat started panicking and saying that I was going to call the cops and that I was going to put them away and that I was going to ruin their lives. And he stabbed me in the chest 7 times. And then they pushed me out of the car and into this ditch and proceeded to cover me with dirt. And then they drove away. And they would drive back to make sure that I hadn't moved. They did that for about what seemed like 10 hours. When I finally didn't hear any more cars coming, I got up and I walked home. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel I wasn't even thinking. I was on autopilot, just walking. I got home, and there's one detail that comes back every now and then, and it's the sound of a metal gate clinking when it locks. And my mom's room was right next to the gate, and I knew that if she heard that, she would know that I had left. I wasn't supposed to. And it felt like I was defusing a bomb with how carefully I was dropping it down as to make sure that she didn't hear it. I got into my house, and my first actual thought was, you're covered in dirt. Go take a shower. And I went to my bathroom, and I had a little stereo in my bathroom, and I saw that the time was at about 4 o'clock in the morning. So I had been gone for a lot longer than I thought I had. And I looked in the mirror, and I was not... This was in January in Texas, up north, so it was freezing. I had no pants, and a Tinkerbell tank top that at that point was started light pink. And when I looked down at it, it was brown. And it took me an abnormally long time to realize that... I'm sorry.
No, take your time, I understand.
That it was my blood. It didn't occur to me, walking, that I should have tried to stop the bleeding. And so it was all the way down to my legs, literally head to toe. And so I got in the shower, and I scrubbed all of the dirt, all of the blood, everything off of me, and just tried not to think about what happened. When I was done, it was at about 6 o'clock. I stayed in the shower for a very long time. And I had to go to school. And I didn't want my mom to be mad. And that was all I was thinking, was I just didn't want her to be mad. So I superglued the wounds on my chest shut. And I put on a big sweater, and I went to school.
Like nothing had happened.
A few weeks later, I was in gym class. We were playing volleyball because it was too cold to go outside. And I hit the ball, and it had popped open one of them, and the blood had started dripping down onto my stomach. And I went to the nurse, and I got some bandages, and I went to my locker, and I grabbed some more super glue. And I went back to the bathroom, and I super glued it shut.
Like, we just deal with this now.
That happened when I was 15. I'm 26 now, and my mom found out about all of this probably about 3 months ago. I didn't tell her, because I didn't want her to get upset. I didn't want her to be sad, and I knew that she would blame herself. Mm-hmm. Which, looking back on it now, is idiotic, and I should have opened up. But after the first couple of years, at that point, it just seemed like I was rehashing something old.
Wow.
I have had 7 treatments on my chest to eliminate these scars. They are still kind of visible. Although, now it's kind of funny. When I was 15, didn't have boobs. Now I do. So now it's just an arrow pointing straight to my cleavage.
Wow.
Which is kind of fun when you use humor to deflect things like I do.
Yeah.
But after that, I fell into a couple of other abusive relationships that were more long-term. And I think that was the seed of it. I think it's because I didn't have those boundaries set up, and I wasn't told what I should expect. And so it's easy when you're very young. The next relationship that I got into, I was 17. And he kind of knew what had happened, but obviously he didn't know any of the details or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say his name.
Yeah, no. I don't expect you to. Yeah.
But he was very emotionally abusive.
So we'll just call this guy number 1.
Guy number one.
Okay.
So guy number one was very emotionally abusive. I was never good enough. I was never smart enough. I was never pretty enough. I was just not enough. And he made me feel like I had to earn his affection. And when you're 17 and you've already been pretty much emotionally traumatized for life, that you hold on to it. You hold on to it because I didn't have a comparison. I didn't have, like, didn't have a dad. Not blaming daddy issues for all of this, but some of it. I didn't know. I was just elated that someone wasn't stabbing me in the chest.
Granted, yeah, I get it.
He was, in public, very nice, very sweet, very cordial. It started getting to the point where I could tell that he was fed up with me. But instead of just ending it, he just made me feel worse and worse and worse. He would grab my thighs, for instance, and say, maybe you should do some lunges. Or he would...
Just out of the clear blue, when you two were alone, he would do something like that?
Yeah, like we'd be driving in the car, and I'd be wearing shorts because it'd be summer, and he would just grab my legs and go, maybe you should do some lunges. Or if I said something incorrectly, or if I stuttered over my words, he would say, if you're too stupid to speak, then shut up.
Good God. Now, was he 17 also?
No, he was 23.
So you were 17.
Yep.
And you're dating a guy 6 years older than you. He's 23. Mm-hmm. Now, one, I don't know how you meet a 23-year-old at 17. I'm sure it's just...
we were doing community theater together.
So you... okay.
Yes.
So you're exposed to you're working with some adults in a community theater, and you meet guy number one, and he turns out to be evil.
Wouldn't classify him as evil. Definitely a raging douchebag.
Definitely.
A raging douchebag. I eventually... This is how 17-year-olds work. I met another boy, and the other boy was nicer, and told me that I didn't have to believe any of that. So I started dating the other boy, and eventually broke up with Captain Douchebag. I'm not calling him guy number one anymore. He's Captain Douchebag.
Hey, we'll allow it. This is a good one.
And I actually dated that guy for some time. He's a very sweet guy. We broke up just because we grew up. Mm-hmm. No big deal. He's still a total sweetheart. And that's when I married. This one's just called The Ex.
So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to stop you right there. So there's a couple of things already. You've hit me with a lot. Reid, I haven't even heard take a breath.
I've been holding it through this whole conversation. I'm kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah, no, this has been a lot to digest. You've hit us with a lot. So I just want to kind of take a break here. Let's really break this down.
Yeah.
You're telling me that at 15, you go through a traumatic experience. You're raped, and then they attempted murder. There's no way to sugarcoat. That was an attempted murder. And you get up, walk home, clean up, and the only thing going through your mind is, I don't want to upset my mom, so I'm not going to say anything. Which, in my head, I heard that, so I'm taking it. He gets away with this crime. He's never prosecuted for that, correct?
No.
Okay. And then 2 years later, you end up with Captain Douchebag. Mm-hmm. And Captain Douchebag, emotionally, mentally, putting you through hell. How many months were you with him?
A year.
You stayed with him a year?
Yeah.
A year. And it makes sense that, hey, I've already been through something. He's validating me. I'm staying here, even though this is a shit situation.
Yeah. Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand about abuse is that this is not an everyday thing. This is not a once a week thing. This is not a once a month thing. This is a bad afternoon. Mm-hmm. On top of everything else that seems to be going perfectly. Because the rest of the time, in both cases, in the mentally abusive guy and the physically abusive guy, they were sweet. They were thoughtful. They complimented me one day and would surprise me with little gifts and things like that. And based on what I had seen from movies, TV, various relationships like that, that meant that this was a good relationship. And then one day, every 3 months or so, he would say something that would be so jarring that it would lock itself into my brain and stay there. Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while, he would throw out another little comment to remind me of that. But this is not a constant, it's not like a never-ending UFC cage match, you know? It's
unexpected, come up out of nowhere.
It's every beginning scene in every movie where they're just in love and having a great time, and then Mr. Hyde comes out. But Mr. Hyde might come out for 15 minutes. He might come out for 6 hours. You don't know. And it's those experiences that you remember the most. But you bury them. You consciously bury them because everything else is fine.
So if 365 days in a year and 360 of them are great, you're going to look at it and go, well, yeah, there were 5 bad days this year.
Yeah.
But there were 360 great days.
Yeah.
Even though the 5 are hurtful, harmful, and fucking traumatic.
Yeah.
You're looking at the law of averages. The 360 was better than 5.
Yeah, and you want to hold on to that honeymoon phase. The phase where he was courting you and being sweet and telling you that you were the most beautiful thing he had ever laid eyes on, and treating you like a goddess.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, right after he does the abuse, he'll go back to that.
Wow.
He'll go right back to it, like second nature. And then you feel beautiful and you feel wonderful again. Until...
the next time.
Exactly. And it's...
wow.
It seems plain on paper. Oh, he said this to you.
Mm-hmm.
Leave. Or, oh, he did this. Leave. It's not that simple. Because immediately, it's like for lack of a better analogy here, it's like when your parents spanked you because you were trying to put a fork in the light socket. They whooped your ass really good, but then they felt bad about it, so they got you ice cream.
Right.
The ice cream outweighed the beating. This is just an emotional beating with sometimes real ice cream afterwards.
Wow. Wow. Man, this is... I'm stunned because it's a level of manipulation almost like a Svengali. It's like they are just taking you on this emotional journey and they're suckering you in.
Yeah.
And building this world, and then they just, I don't want you to get too comfortable in this. Let me just shatter you a little.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's, you're being too confident. You're about to be out of my reach. That's what it is. It's, I'm about to lose a little bit of control over you. So I'm going to bring you back in. That Captain Douchebag, we didn't talk to each other for quite a few months. And then we had a house party because we were doing a play. We had a house party and I ended up staying the night there. Just because we were kind of cool. It hadn't really hit that he had abused me.
Right.
And he actually ended up putting a loaded gun in my mouth that night. Apparently it was a joke. I did not think it was very funny.
Right.
And he was drunkenly waving a loaded gun at me, put it in my mouth. Eventually I knew that if he had enough whiskey, he would pass out. So I just kept giving him shots and trying to get the gun out of his hands until he finally passed out. I buried the gun in his backyard.
Yeah.
And then walked my little ass home.
Wow.
I don't talk to Captain Douchebag anymore, and neither does anyone else.
Wow. No, this is, man. Reid, any questions, bud?
I guess, yeah, I don't even know how to even form a question to a lot of this. I had them, and then they were gone.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of in the sense, what's the is it fear of staying in a relationship on it? Is it, I mean, do you just stay in the relationship out of fear of leaving and what the retaliation would be, or is it just because you stay because of familiarity? Or, I mean, that's kind of something I've always kind of been curious on in that aspect.
So I would honestly say that it's neither. Leaving becomes a non-option. It becomes, oh, I can't leave because, one, what if this is the best I'll ever get? Or two, what if I find someone worse than he is? This is the evil that I can handle. And then there's the, the optimist in the back of your head constantly saying things like he had a bad day. He was stressed at work. He and his mom got into a fight that day. He and his best friend haven't hung out in a really long time. He's probably just grumpy. You justify it. And it really, as an adult, as someone who's gone through therapy and taken the appropriate steps to work through this, to work through all of this, it all goes back to the boundaries. And I do not think, for men or women, for anyone, I don't think we tell kids and young adults and teenagers enough what their boundaries are and that they have an absolute right to exercise on them.
I agree.
Because, your, creepy uncle says weird stuff all the time, right? And you deal with it. You put up with it since you were a small child. You've been told to be polite. To just deal with it. Well, we take that. And especially women. We hold on to that because we've been told that when someone wants a hug or someone wants a smile or anything like that, that you're supposed to act on it because you don't want to be rude. Because you don't want to be irritable. You don't want to be you don't want to be the bitch. And it's ingrained into us that it makes me the bad person if I tell you no. If I stand up for myself, then I'm the bad one. Now, I mean, I hate to say it, but with the Me Too thing coming to life, which was absolutely amazing. Every time I read these stories, I tear up. I love it. Because I'm getting to see women that I look up to stating that they are just like me.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to... I mean, personally, the Me Too movement has helped me regain my confidence.
Wow.
It has helped me go to bars, go to public places where I know that there are going to be a lot of people and feel confident and secure enough that I can say, no, don't touch me, you need to leave. And not be terrified of the result. And not feel like a bad person.
Man, that is I don't think any man listening to this show has probably ever heard that put that way. As a father of 5 girls, I was a big fan of the Me Too movement because of my 5 daughters. I hate being able to say only 2 weren't raped. So when 3 and 5 have experienced some form of sexual harassment or molestation or rape, you have an issue. First of all, as a man, when it's your daughters, you have the ingrown ego. Why couldn't I protect my little girls? But then I learned something when the first time I was sitting at a hospital after she'd been raped, and the police are there, and you're waiting as they take her in the back to do the rape examination. It's that feeling of hopelessness that you couldn't help her, and then you realize everybody's been violated. Your wife's been violated, and then if she's had some trauma in the past, that's playing back in her mind what she went through, and now that's happened to her baby girl. And then you go, it's a lot that starts to play. And as I was kind of in the moment, I became very aware of how it was affecting aunts and uncles and nephews and cousins, and then myself, and then to the point where 2 people really close to me, hey, what's going on? And I told them, hey, I'm at the hospital. I'm dealing with this right now. This is what's happening. I'm going to have to cut some stuff out. And I'm going to be laying low for a while to deal with this as a family. And two of those friends immediately went into a mode where it was like, hey, I can get you a gun and we can handle this. It was a totally different conversation that I was expecting to have. And anybody knows me, I'm a very, grew up in the suburbs, college educated guy, but I allowed myself to go to a pretty dark place for a bit because I really wanted to kill this fool. And when they arrested him, I was there, and 3 police officers stood between me and this guy because they would not let me get to him because he was handcuffed, and that was what I was hoping. I wanted him handcuffed. I was like, I could break his neck so easy, and then they just got to try me for murder. We're done. We don't even got to take this to court. Just try me and make sure I just get my Game Informer magazines while I'm in there. And I was ready. I was ready, made peace with it. It was like, I was good, but it was weird. Those 2 friends were like, no, we don't even got to let this go to court. We can catch this fool. We know people. Just tell us a picture and his name, and you don't even have to be there. In fact, we'll tell you where to be so that you're on camera. Like, it got dark, and wherever he is, he better believe in God, because that's the only reason he's alive today, because it got to a point where I was ready to rub that stain off of the laundry of life. I still think he's garbage, and I still kind of sometimes regret not taking him out. So I understand
know these
that.
people.
Yeah, you do. You may know. You may be familiar with some of these people. So yeah. So it was like I say, it got dark.
Yeah.
It was not just me thinking it and these people. When Reid tells you, I think I know these people, that means he may have overheard a conversation. You were very correct. So
I think that I got some peace of mind with the first guy, with the guy who stabbed me, because he tried to steal an ATM, and he's in prison forever now because of that. Which gives me a very good, like, a peace of mind.
Like, there's some karma that happened.
There's some major karma. Like, I'm not religious. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I just look up at the sky and wink and point. And I'm like, you got me. You
got to throw some finger pistols at the sky, like, good one. Good looking out. All right. Yeah, that's tough, man. That's way tough. And that is it's very rare that you stun me and Reid. It doesn't happen. There's usually, anybody tells us anything on this show, we usually have a reply. You're the first guest that has ever kind of stunned me to the point where I'm like, wow, that's a lot to take in. So we know about the first one and how it leads into the second one. Mm-hmm. And you were 17 in the second relationship. And you're telling me 6 years after that, you end up married?
Actually, I met the ex when I was 19.
Wow. So
and we got
2 years after that, you're in this relationship with the guy that's now the ex.
Yes. And we got into a relationship very quickly. Mm-hmm. And it was perfect. Honestly, it was perfect for 3 years. I had never been happier. He treated me like I was a princess. He was the most supportive. He took care of me. We were both, working, but we always made time for each other. He always did special little things for me. Mm-hmm. And it was perfect. I look back at that terrible, tiny, 1-bedroom apartment that we shared for those first years, and I can honestly say that those are the happiest days of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. When we moved into a home, into a house, and he was having trouble at work. He was stressed out. He wasn't pursuing anything. He was getting depressed, and I could tell. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to encourage him to go out and we had also met through the theater.
Okay.
And I could tell that he was just not being himself. And I noticed this because he started drinking. a lot. Taking shots at 10 o'clock in the morning a lot. Finishing off half bottles of rum by 5 or 6 p.m. after waking up at like 1 or 2 because he slept all day. I could tell that he was... something was going wrong.
Right.
And because of my past trauma, I immediately assumed that it was me. That I was making him this way. So I tried everything. I encouraged him that, you know, if he wanted to, you know, go on tour as an actor or anything like that, that he could do that. Mm-hmm. And I would be wholeheartedly supportive of him, and I would bend over backwards for anything that he wanted. Mm-hmm. And then there was one night where it changed. We were having a party at our house, and he got way too drunk way too quickly. And I said, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and go to bed. Mostly because I had dealt with the drunk ex before, and I knew where this was going. It was going to be an argument. It was going to be a fight. He was going to scream at me. He was going to possibly throw something. I didn't want to deal with it. So I went to bed.
All right.
And my friends were still in the living room. They were all drinking, having a great time.
Yeah.
And he came in and threw a can of Red Bull. And he hit the table with it, and it busted open, and he threw it at me in the bed. And then came over because I was like, no, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go. I'm going to get myself out of the situation. I'm going to go stay at my mom's house. I'm just going to leave. When I attempted to leave, he grabbed me by the throat and pinned me down on the bed. And I had enough air to scream. And a very good friend of mine, a guy that I've known since high school, came into the room to see what happened. And luckily, this friend is huge. He's like 6'3", like 280 pounds. He's stout.
He's a good friend to have.
He's very handy to have in situations where you're getting domestically abused. And he was able to pull the ex off of me. And I ran. And it was very similar to when I was walking back from the ditch. I was numb. And I got into my car and I drove over to my mom's house. And she was asleep. So I actually drove over to my friend, my best friend's house. And told her what happened. And she said, well, he's just drunk. He's just drunk. He's not like this all the time. And I said, you're right. He was just drunk. So, and just like with the mentally abusive guy, after that, everything was fine. Talked to him about it. I said, hey. I was like, that can't happen again. You scared me. You hurt me. We're going to either deal with this or we're done. And at this point, we were actually engaged. And he said, okay, no, I'm not going to drink that much anymore. Everything is going to be fine. I'm never going to do that. And he was apologetic and sweet. And it went back to being that sweet, caring, kind person that I fell in love with. Like a switch. Everything was fine again. The night of our engagement party, he drove my car home drunk and ran into a cement pole. Got a DWI. And I couldn't quite wrap my head around the fact that he did it. And I was so upset. And I remember I was so mad that I hit him in the chest. And I regretted it instantly. And I said, I'm sorry I hit you. I'm very upset. That was our only car. How are we going to pay for this? We don't even have enough money to bail you out of jail. I just drained our entire savings account and had to get help. What were you thinking? And he said, all I wanted to do was be home with you. That's why I drove drunk, is because I wanted to be home with you. Which I can tell by your face is the most manipulative thing any person has ever said ever.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Because what he's doing now is he's like, if I tell her I was wanting to be near her, she's going to be like, that's amazing and sweet. And I'm being too tough on him for being this stupid.
Yeah,
which is what you did.
That is exactly what happened. So after that, he actually stopped drinking. And everything reverted back to being the exact same way that it was. It was sweet. We were going to move to Austin. and everything was looking up. We had most of the DUI handled, or the DWI. We had it handled. We were both making okay money. I had just gotten a job in Austin that was going to pay really good money. And we were just so excited at this new chapter of our life.
Okay, let me stop you. I want to know, how long was it between you being choked and him crashing the car? I just want to kind of put a reference in time of how long he was acting good between those two.
It was between 6 and 8 months.
It's damn near a year.
Yeah.
So for 6 or 8 months, if he's being this good, no problems, no nothing.
Yeah.
So the wreck comes out of nowhere. When it does happen, you're like, well, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. To be honest, I figured that he had just passed out somewhere. So I called my brother, I called my mom, I called a bunch of our mutual friends, I called the hospital. I was just really worried that he had fallen asleep somewhere.
Right.
And then that happened. But, I mean, like I said, after that, we actually that happened in, I think, July. We got married in August.
Now, what year is this? 2013. 2013.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, like I said, we moved to Austin that next year.
Right.
And we loved it. We loved it. I had to come and actually live down here by myself for a little bit and work before we could get the apartment and everything like that. So we were separated for a few months, and distance makes the heart grow fonder. And so the minute I saw him, I couldn't even explain how much I missed him and how much I cared about him, and I was so excited. And we got into the apartment. And we celebrated. We drank. And he assaulted me. He sexually assaulted me. I had gone to bed, and I woke up, and he was having sex with me.
Your husband?
Yeah. And I remember telling him, no, I'm tired, like, leave me alone. And he covered my mouth and put my wrists above my head and kept going. And at the time, I just rationalized it. I was like, I must have been more drunk than I thought. I must have given him the okay. And I rationalized the entire thing. Another 6 months go by, and he still hasn't gotten a job. I'm working pretty much 12-hour days to make sure that we have barely enough money to scrape by. We're still having to ask my mom to loan us some cash every once in a while.
Because you're trying to pay rent, put groceries in the house.
Exactly. And the drinking started again. And he just kept drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. And that's when he would start screaming at me. But this started happening more frequently. It started happening once every 2 weeks. And he would, at parties with our friends, with our mutual friends that actually moved down to Austin with us, he would scream and call me a cunt in front of all of our friends and slam doors and tell them how terrible I am. And just go on these drunken rants and raves about how awful I was. And none of our mutual friends called it out. Nobody said, that's messed up. You can't let him talk to you that way. Because we had all gotten so accustomed to sweet, nice, amazing guy. So everyone was like, he's being weird. And it was
okay. So wait a minute. We got to stop right there. And now this is where it gets crazy. So friends are involved. Mutual friends. Nobody wants none of the women pull you to the side in private and go, girl, are you okay?
No.
Is he doing this normally? Nobody came and asked questions?
No.
Everybody just kind of was like, oh, that's happening over there, but I'm just going to look forward and pretend I don't see it, basically.
Yeah.
I could say that's the society we're becoming, but that'd be a whole nother show. That's a whole nother topic and a whole nother show, but I just wanted to rationalize what I just heard, so everybody's like, he's being weird. That's what you got.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were a couple of other times where he would pin me down or throw me or just yell. Honestly, the screaming was the worst because he would hold me down and scream in my ear. And because of this, I started gaining weight very rapidly.
Probably stress eating.
Yeah, no, that was exactly what it was. I was stressed at work. I was stressed with him. I didn't want to go home. Driving into my driveway every night was the worst feeling.
That's, I used to work a high-pressure job, and we always said that you got to have a fortress of solitude. So when work sucks, you should be able to go home, and that should be your oasis. That you escape work. You're now have no oasis because you're in hell at work, and then you go home, and it's a good chance it's going to be hell there.
Yeah, actually, my car. I spent so much time driving around in circles around my neighborhood, just listening to my favorite songs and just like relaxing and getting my thoughts together. And then I would pull into that driveway, into that parking spot, and turn off the car. And just this pit would form in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And walking up, we lived on the 3rd floor, walking up the stairs was...
You didn't know what you were going to walk into?
I didn't know if it was going to be happy. I didn't know if he was going to be asleep. I didn't know if he was going to be drunk already. I didn't know if he was going to be there. I had no idea. It was a mystery every time I walked in.
Wow.
Yeah. Finally, I finally talked to him about it when we moved from an apartment into a house in Austin. And, the house was beautiful. I loved it. It was, everything that we could have wanted. It was beautiful. It was within our price range. It was amazing. And he started drinking again.
Right when you get the house?
Right when we get the house.
Now, is he working by now?
Yes. By this time, he had gotten a job at IKEA.
So he's doing some retail work.
He's doing some retail work. And he started drinking again. And again, doing shots first thing in the morning. Just overly doing it and actually Snapchatting it to our friends. That's when I started getting the, hey, is drinking a lot again text message.
So the ex basically
The ex?
starts drinking again.
Yes.
Okay. And now you're getting these chats.
Now I'm getting these text messages saying, hey, he's drinking again. You might have to talk to him about it. We never got a chance to talk about that. I found out that he he cheated on me. He cheated on me with quite a few people that we knew. And he posted ads on Craigslist to have people come and service him while I was at work. Because he quit his job without telling me one day. So I was the breadwinner again. And while I was at work, he would call people from Craigslist to
come over and hook him up.
Yeah. And the worst part about this is there's no lesson, there's nothing that I can like throw out there and encourage girls all across the world. Like, this is how you deal with an abusive ex. You throw him out of your house when you find out that he's cheating on you because he hurt your feelings. That's how I did it. I later found out that my best friend, the one who was saying it was weird, and didn't want to talk about it. After we had separated, we were about to get divorced, she, in confidence, told me that he had tried to sexually assault her while she was sleeping on her couch one night when he was drunk. And then I heard that from another friend. And from another. And another.
So multiple female friends?
And none of us talked about it. They didn't tell me. I didn't tell them what I was going through. We didn't talk.
So he wasn't successful, but he had tried.
He had tried.
With multiple friends.
With multiple friends. Actually, my best friend, he had tried to force her to give him fellatio while she was asleep. And so she punched him in the face.
Wow.
And I remember that day because he came home with a black eye. And I said, what happened to your eye? And he lied, surprise. And I remember when told me that story.
Yeah.
That I remember that day, and I said, you gave him the black eye, didn't you? And she says, yeah, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to have, like, a real conversation, woman to woman, friend to friend. Like, why didn't you tell me this? And she said, I didn't want to hurt your relationship.
And nobody knew. Nobody knew that the relationship was terrible.
They only saw what presented.
Mm-hmm.
They only saw what my ex presented,
mm-hmm.
which was
this nice.
This just nice guy who's so caring and so sweet, and it was all a lie. It was all a lie. And when it comes to whether I should have left or not, it wasn't an option. In my head, we were married. In sickness and in health, through everything. And looking back, I still, to this day, those are some of the best years of my life were spent with him. In a crappy one-bedroom apartment.
You were happier when you had less.
Yeah. We were so much happier. And then as we grew into full-grown adults, everything fell apart. And, I mean, we can blame this on substance abuse. We can blame it on everything, honestly. We can blame it on daddy issues. We can blame it on not communicating. But there's no easy way to go about this. There's no easy out. There's no easy, I'm just going to pack my overnight bag and go. When we divorced, I lost my car, my house, my job. I lost everything, and I was homeless for quite a while, actually. My life fell apart.
Wow.
I finally got up on my feet. I'm doing better and better every single day. And right now, I am happier that I am out of the situation.
You had to go through hell to get out of it, though.
Yep. And if you think about women with kids, if you think about women who don't have a skill set like I do, who can't just go out and get a job that can support them.
All right. Or somebody that left, college to help him pursue his dream.
Yeah.
And so now they don't have the education or the skill set, and then they have kids on top of it. So they're stuck sometimes. I don't have a way out of this situation. I don't have anywhere I can go with my kids.
I was honestly lucky. I was lucky that it was me and a dog.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I'm still lucky. I'm still very thankful to a lot of my friends who let me, crash on their couch, who fed me. There were quite a few days where I just drank a bunch of water and hoped that I would get to go to sleep. And I did. I went through hell. And I'm getting the help that I need now.
Yeah.
And I have learned through all of this that I am strong enough to handle myself, that I am confident enough to tell people when to stay away from me, or what I am and am not comfortable with. And I have the open communication to say what I want and what I need. And I don't think that we give men or women that voice. And it's something that I feel very passionately about. I volunteer with rape advocacy groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a rape counselor. I have an unofficial underground railroad for my friends who are leaving abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually started, if you text me an emoji of a chicken, I will come to whatever location you tell me to, no questions asked. And I will come and get you, and I will take you back to my house, and we will not speak of it until you want to.
So because of what you went through, you've now reached out to your friends, we've set up a code system to take care of each other.
And they've actually spread that to their friends and their friends and their friends. And it's nothing compared to what a lot of charities do and everything like that. And I highly encourage you guys to donate directly to your, domestic violence centers in your city. Mm-hmm. They need all the help they can get. But it is my way of giving back. And it is my way of telling my story and letting other women know you're not a bitch.
It's not your fault. Ever.
You're not a bitch. It is not your fault. And you are in the right when you demand what you want and what you need. And when you reject what you don't.
Wow. That's powerful. And you're a survivor. Nobody's probably going to tell you this, but you're probably my new favorite hero. Like, your superpower is I kick ass and I keep moving. That's impressed because that takes a certain a mental toughness to go through what you go through. And some people would have just got to a point and just gave up, poor me, and gave up on life and been done. You said, fuck that. We're going to walk forward. I'm getting out of this. And that's impressive. Wow. Reid, are you still with us, bud?
I am, sir.
Man, this has been it's been a powerful story. Do you have anything you want to add or ask?
I guess more or less, I'm just kind of curious why, in a sense, I guess why do women more than men, roughly, and it seems like, try to justify the actions of their partners, kind of like, as you said before, it's only when he drinks, or it's only on this kind of occasion. Is it just for justification to make the situation seem not as bad as it is, or you just don't want to put yourself in that situation of saying this is a bad person?
So it's a situation that I've seen happen with just as many men as I have with women. Mm-hmm. Guys, you guys will justify your woman till your dying breath, just like women will. And I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's the put on the happy face.
Yeah.
It's everything's fine. This is our business, and we're going to deal with this later. Mm-hmm. I think it's also I can handle this. I'm strong. I'm not weak. This is my relationship, and I can handle it. And I also think it is a part of a societal factor, something that has been ingrained in all of us from the time that we are very little. That, where I'm from, mm-hmm. You don't hang out your dirty laundry, right?
Right.
We've all heard that. Mm-hmm. You don't hang out your dirty laundry. You don't bring people into your drama.
Relationship, yeah.
Because that's what we blame everything on now. It's just drama. No, a lot of times these are cries for help. A lot of times this is more than your stereotypical 14-year-old girl drama.
No, yeah, I agree.
And we don't want to drag people in there, and we don't want to be overly dramatic. And the big one, girls do not want to be called crazy. Because when you call a woman crazy, you cut her legs out from under her. You basically just told that woman everything you've ever said is invalid because you are mentally ill. Because you are the problem. It's all in your head. That's basically every time you've heard one of your guy friends or anything like that call a woman crazy, tell him to shut up. Because that's why girls don't report rape. That is the exact reason why girls deal with abusive relationships, is because they don't want to be seen as crazy or irrational.
I need them to be crazy and irrational. I need you to say these things. There's something you said in this story that blew me away, is the fact that he tried to sexually assault multiple friends.
Yeah.
And nobody talked.
Nobody. And they all told me that it was because they didn't want to hurt me. What we all didn't realize is by not communicating what was happening, we were hurting each other. And in the end, it did hurt me. It did hurt me the worst.
Yeah, because you end up coming, it's like, oh my God, I've already gone through hell. Let me pour some more poop on this situation.
Exactly. And what we didn't realize is that it was hurting all of us more not talking about it than by bringing it up and handling the situation and having a discussion between all of us, even if it was just me and them individually.
Jane, I'm going to be honest with you. I think had one person come to you and said, your ex tried to sexually assault me while I was asleep, months, you would have been gone then. There would have been months cut off of that relationship.
Yes.
You'd have got out before it got that bad.
I would have told them to, one, report him to the police. I would have... I'm not saying I would have stabbed anyone. But what I am saying is that I would have handled it. I would have encouraged them to go to the police, and I would have kicked them out. Because women in these relationships take it all on themselves.
Right.
When it starts spilling out, and this is a pattern that you'll see a lot, when it spills over to the kids. And you'll see this when the kids start getting abused. That's when the woman leaves. When it starts spilling over to her sister or her little brother or anything like that, when it spills onto others, that is when a woman will then take all of their pain upon herself and then leave.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, because then it's not just me.
Yeah. If it's me, we're good.
Because
you hurt somebody else, I've known women that were like in abusive relationships, but the minute a child got hit or it spilled onto the child, they were ready to kill this guy who they had taken all this abuse from.
Yeah.
Because no one of the kids has been hurt by it.
Because as women, we're taught that we're expected to be these ridiculously strong and you know, able to bounce back from any situation, and you can handle childbirth, you're strong. We take all of this abuse, we just take it in stride. Because we know that we can handle it.
Wow. Well, and you're right. There's another thing. I had a friend of mine, and he was in a relationship that I thought sucked. I mean, just to put it bluntly, it was a terrible relationship, and I've been in those relationships, and as men, we don't really talk about our feelings. I was blessed to be with a lot of guys that kind of, you know, from pretty much from the point I was 18 up until my adulthood, even now, I was blessed to be surrounded by men that didn't fall for the okie doke about this is what it means to be a man. They basically defined what their manhood was on their own. And because of that, they were able to talk about their emotions, their feelings. They're able to open up about things. And if I was in a relationship I didn't have any business being in, they had no problem coming to me and going, well, I don't think she's the one. And I've had to have that conversation with my male friends and go, I don't think she's the one, and here's why. And not every time do they want to hear it. Not every time do they want to accept that information. And sometimes they would take it and be like, you may have something, and I respect your opinion enough to say you may have something, and let's get out of it. And then look back years later down the road, you can look back and go, you were right. Or I can look back and go, yeah, you were right. I did need to be in that situation. I did need to put myself in that situation. And, you know, I'm 47 years old, and I'm still having these conversations with guys, you know, because now I'm on the road where anything you're thinking about doing, I probably did it twice, 3 times if it was fun. And it was bad decisions and all. So I've done it. And it's just like you get to a point where you go, hey, I did that, and that is not where you want to be. And here's why. Let me tell you all the things that can go horribly wrong because they happened to me. And so we do need to be, I think we need to be more of a society where we reach out to people and we share those experiences and we pick each other up. And we don't really necessarily do that. Sometimes we're like, well, that's their issue, and I don't want to be nosy, and I don't want to get involved.
I would disagree. I feel like there's a lot of people in the society, the vast majority, I would say, that do reach out and do want to help. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there is a lack of reaching back. Like, you can only reach for a drowning man so long.
Yeah.
Before you have to let him go.
Because they're going to pull you down.
Exactly. And I feel like when you don't know that you can reach out, there's nothing to reach out to. You can't call your friend and say, oh, by the way, my husband has been, you know, abusing me for so long. By the way, can you come give me a ride?
Yeah, true.
You can't do that because you've already put up this facade. You've already put up this lie for so long that it feels like you're betraying yourself when you do try and reach out. I feel like communication channels should be more open, and it shouldn't be taboo to talk about this, and it shouldn't reflect badly on any one person when you say, hey, my partner did this the other night. What do you guys think about it?
Wow.
And having an actual discussion with the people who care about you. Because what happened to me was I didn't want anyone to be mad at him. I didn't want anyone to be mad at him. I wanted to be strong. This was my relationship. I could handle it.
So you were still defending him?
Yeah.
Hell or high water, you're standing by your man.
Yeah. Actually, this is interesting. So we're divorced. Mm-hmm. I ran into his brand new ex-girlfriend.
So he already has another ex now.
He does. She is an absolute delight. She is one of the strongest and most amazing people I've ever met because he yelled at her. And he slammed doors. And he did exactly what he did to me. And she left.
First time.
No questions asked. Left. Kicked him out. Took all of her stuff. Took the cat, too.
She was like, nope, one chance and you're done.
That was it. And I told her, I was like, that is amazing. I was like, you are amazing. I love you.
Yeah, she's a favorite of mine now.
I love her to death. We're actually friends now. Which is weird. But talking to her is better than like any therapist I've ever spoken to. Because she is so uplifting and she is so strong. Mm-hmm. She makes me feel weak. She makes me feel silly and stupid. I love her to death. But it was amazing because the reason why she said it was because of the Me Too movement.
Wow.
She said that she started recognizing after reading articles about these guys and talking to her friends about their experiences that he was going to turn out just like them. And that's when she left.
Because she saw it coming from a mile away.
Because she was educated.
People are talking about it now.
Because it wasn't taboo for her to say, oh no, he did this, so I left. Because it wasn't weird. Because now it is socially acceptable to say those things.
So, you have...
Did I break Reid?
Yeah.
No. I'm listening.
Yeah, it's very rare that Reid and I don't say a lot. This has been an amazing just hour to spend with you because you've told us, you gave us a map for how to walk through hell and come out the other side. That's powerful. And I hope anybody that listens to this gets that. So I guess the thing we want to do is, we always here on Rodical Thinking want to do something where, how do we help? How do we make a difference? So what would you suggest if someone was in an abusive relationship right now? Who did they talk to? Just open up the line into communication? Should they just say, hey, talk to someone that you trust? Get a confidant? What do they do?
What I would highly suggest doing is reaching out to any kind of domestic violence center. Mm-hmm. There is a national domestic violence hotline. Mm-hmm. If I had it memorized, I would say it right now, but I don't.
I will get those. In fact, here's what we'll do. We'll make a promise to you. I will get those numbers, and I will post them under the podcast and under the video on YouTube. We will get those numbers out for everybody.
And don't be afraid to call. You can actually stay anonymous, and you can just talk it out with a trained professional. And if you feel like you're overreacting, if you feel like you're being crazy, if you feel not 100% sure if this is a real situation or if it's just all in your head, call.
It looks like Reid got us the number. It is 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233. Now, is that the national hotline for domestic abuse, Reid?
Yeah. So it's 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE, if that makes any more sense.
Awesome.
So that one's open 24/7, 365.
Well, you're the best, brother. You're the best. Thank you. We will definitely put that on the show. We'll put it in the liner notes. We want that to be out there for people. And it's like I said, I had a male friend that went through this. Same thing, guys. If you're in a relationship and you're being abused, reach out. Don't fall into this habit of thinking, oh, I'm a man, I should be able to deal with this. Nobody deserves to be abused. Nobody deserves to be used or exploited or manipulated. Get out, get help, call this number.
Call this number even if you aren't 100% sure if it is abuse. What you're going to talk to is a trained counselor. And they're going to be able to walk you through this. They're going to help you find different avenues to get you help, to get you a job, to get you a place to stay, to direct you to a shelter so you can leave.
Okay.
Don't hesitate to reach out, and don't hesitate to ask the people who know and love you for help.
Yeah. That, everything, since we started this show, it seems like that seems to be a recurring thing, is having strong support circles, having open lines of communication with friends and family. Yeah. Whether we're dealing with a depression, which, Reid and I have both had our struggles with it, and then, or whether you're dealing with abuse. And thankfully, I haven't had to go through that. I've, had it happen to several friends, close friends that I've seen in some pretty bad situations in just really manipulative relationships. And I could see it from the outside. And my problem is I'm a fat guy that doesn't know how to mind his own business. So sometimes I give my opinion when I shouldn't. So, just having those open and honest conversations and being able to have a trust with these people to say, hey, I wouldn't say it if I didn't love you. I don't like what I'm seeing. And so it's, it is what it is, but it's, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your story with us, because you may not realize it, but you are a well of strength. You're a deep, deep well of strength. I'm mind blown, because I just hearing this story and just going, how are you sitting here this strong? And I whine if I have to do cardio, and you're strong beyond belief. Wow. I can't thank you enough. No, and anybody listening, Reid and I always say this every episode. We always say, if you guys need to talk to someone, we've given you all of our emails. Our Instagrams. We're on social media. The emails for us, how to reach us. Don't be scared to contact us for information. If you think someone is in a situation, contact us for information, and we can get information to you to help these people. My whole job at this point now is I got to leave this place better than when I found it. Because, one, I'm 47 and I'm a black male, so I only think I got maybe 30 more years on this. Because I am in terrible health, and I hate to give up burgers and fries and fried chicken. So I've just decided I'm checking out early. I'm just going to do it. That's how it is. So it's what it is. And so now I got to start leaving this place better than what I found it. And that's anything we can do to get that information out to people. We're going to do it. Reid, anything you got, man?
No.
You're good?
Yeah.
Wow. Jane,
I broke Reid.
Yeah, you really did. Jane, I can't thank you enough. What's up, bud?
Well, I was going to say, I forgot. Yeah, I guess one question would be, if you could talk to younger you now that you know everything that you've experienced, what is something like advice that you would give yourself for all the stories that you've given so far?
I would say just honestly be confident. If I was speaking to my younger self, I would say be confident, and it's okay to tell people what you want. It's okay to tell people what you need, and no is always an option.
Yes, it is.
No is always an option.
I do have one thing before we get. You said something about not having a father. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of times we do say, it's almost like they use it negatively to say somebody has daddy issues. I think fathers are important. Maybe that's old fashioned or traditionalist, but I think having a mother and a father, they both bring something to child rearing. There's a 50% that they're that each parent puts into that child to make them stronger. Like teaching my girls how to fight and be able to defend themselves was something that I thought was important. And they still, with everything I taught them, were still able to be hurt. So it's not a 100% foolproof plan, but I noticed that you did say you didn't have a father in the household growing up. Do you feel like you were looking for male justification sometimes because he wasn't there?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I can honestly say when it came to justifying the abuse or anything like that, I do not believe that had anything to do with my daddy issues.
Right.
I feel like the jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, I feel like that is squarely on daddy issues' shoulders. And not knowing, just being uninformed on, for lack of a better term, male intent, and not having someone to be like, hey, if a guy does this, it's bad, and it's not okay. Like, I had heard that from my mom, and I had heard that from everything else, but hearing it from a father figure, I feel like would have sunk in. I feel like having a guy who I felt like would protect me would have made me more open to going to the police, would have made me more open to saying no. Because then it's not just me versus the person.
Right.
It's me and my little army. You know? And don't get me wrong, I have an older brother, I have my mom, and they would have ripped someone in two. But there is that societal standard of the dad protects.
Right.
I can't ask my mom to do that. She's doing everything else. She's a single mom. I can't ask my brother to do it because that's weird. And I don't want to tell my brother any of this stuff. I feel like the seed of the misinformation that was planted by the so-called daddy issues. But I feel like I don't think it was the root cause of it.
Fair enough.
It was the seed, and then there was some rain and photosynthesis and stuff that happened.
Yeah, to let it take growth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things, like, I as a father, you know, my wife used to tell me I was being too rough with our girls because I would tell them, if a boy tells you he's going to die if you don't have sex with him, test it. Ask him how long it's going to take him to die. And then wait that many days. And my wife was like, you cannot tell our girls that at 6. And I was like, why?
Yeah, you can.
Why not? And I would refuse to play by any rules. So I was teaching my girls, like, I taught them crazy stuff. Like, I taught them military fighting techniques. And one daughter got kicked out of school because she broke a boy's fingers. And then his sister tried to jump in and she broke that girl's nose. And then the cousin tried to jump in and she took out the cousin's kneecaps. And so 3 kids were taken out because my daughter thinks she's Jean-Claude Van Damme now. And so had to go to school and pick her up for defending herself, and she got McDonald's as a treat for that. I took her straight out to McDonald's. What do you want? We're just going to keep this between you and I. I'm going to take a few days off, and I'm going to do suspension with you. We're just going to play video games and watch cartoons all day. It was the greatest time of my life because I felt like...
You did good.
I was so proud of her because I told him, whatever he does, if he hits you again, kick him in the balls. And when he bends over, I said, they can't help it. If we get kicked here, we bend forward. And you don't punch him in the face. You look at the ground under his face and you punch to that spot. You throw all your strength as if you're punching through him to the ground. And she did it. And then she freelanced the rest of it. And I was like, and when I got to the school, principals asked me, well, what's going on? And I told them, I just say, well, my wife works at the prison, so maybe she taught my daughter some techniques for subduing criminals. I don't know. It wasn't me. I was not about to take blame that I just tried to turn my daughter into a Navy SEAL. I was like, I'm not doing this. So, yeah, I think it's important for fathers to be there to tell your daughters it's okay to say no. It's okay to call people on their bullshit. It's okay. A man, I think a lot of time men, we kind of, as our girls get older and they start getting breasts, we start, oh, I'm standing off. She's a woman now. No, it's the wife's issue. No, that's still your daughter.
Well, you also have to keep into account, you gotta tell dudes this stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
You have to tell your son, hey, if I catch you doing this stuff.
Yeah, we don't rape. There's a
rate
reason.
people.
There's a. You shouldn't have to tell people don't rape. That should be common knowledge, but it's not. So you have to tell your sons we don't rape.
I mean,
you don't touch people that don't ask to be touched.
Yeah, and just be open and clear that sometimes there is a gray area, and sometimes you're both too drunk, and sometimes it doesn't seem like a no. But you have to open it up, and it's all about communication. Communication. Talk. And don't be afraid to say something stupid. Don't be afraid to ask something vulgar. Talk.
Oh, God, yeah.
Voice opinions, and other people will tell you if you're wrong, and then be accepting of it.
Okay. Man, thank you so much. This has been an amazing show. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us. I damn near want to just start a new podcast with you. I just love you so much right now, Jane. This has been great, and I thank you. And guys, we're about to get on out of here. Reid, thank you for joining us. Are you okay?
I am, sir.
Do I need to come pick you up and go watch like some cartoons? Because you sound like this was mentally tough on you for a while. This really, you've never been this quiet.
You can get on the Division with me later. That would help.
We will play online on the PS4, brother. I know you need some man time, man. This is tough, and I could tell it was. It was a hard listen at points to hear that you go through that. But I want to thank you, because if anybody hears this and they get the strength to get themselves out of this situation, then it was worth it. Dude, we always do these shows, and I never know how to end them anymore. So, guys, I'm just going to say this. We love you. If you need us, you know how to get a hold of us. And thank you for listening. And thank you for being our guest, Jane.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
All right, guys. Everybody, you have a good one. And what's our saying this week?
Bye.
Bye and hug somebody.
Thank you for listening to Rodical Thinking, a Team Lift production. Hit us up at Go Team Lift and at Coach Silky on Twitter.